Once, in a lovely kingdom called Sweet, which was nestled among 7 hills, there lived a naughty old king who loved chocolates. His father had loved gumdrops, his father's father had loved licorice, and his father's father's father, who had established the kingdom, had loved anything sweet. But this king loved chocolate above all else. He had chocolate flakes for breakfast and chocolate sandwiches for lunch. He had chocolate burgers for dinner, which caused 17 cooks and 1 dessert chef to quit over the years. He had his castle painted brown so the bricks would look like chocolate bars, and poured hot chocolate into the moat. The moat dragons were so fat they lay in the water like huge brown blimps. Worst of all, the naughty old king had named his 3 sons Nougat, Toffee, and Cocoa, and his only daughter Fudge. That brought them great distress, for they had always wanted to be named Tom, Dick, Harry, and Rosabelle Lynn. Now one morning, when the king was down in the dungeon, helping stir the latest vat of chocolate, the captain of the guard ran down the stairs crying, "Sire, sire, the kingdom has been invaded!" Well, the king was not as naughty as all that. He knew that chocolate was one thing, but war another. He ran up the stairs, straight to the royal war room. There he found his children and the wise men and women of the kingdom waiting for him. "Who is invading us?" the king asked. Fudge pointed out the window. Far away, like a brown stain on the 7 hills, was an army standing at the entrance to the valley. "Do we know them?" demanded the king. "They have not given their names," replied Toffee. "Nor the king they serve," added Nougat. "Nor their reason for being here," said Cocoa. "We must meet them without delay, immediately, at once," cried Fudge. "We haven't got all day." It was not for nothing that she was called Fudge the Nudge. So the king strapped on his armor, buckled on his sword, and girded up his loins. Then he was hoisted onto his battle horse, and by noon was riding at the head of his army towards the invaders. Toffee, Nougat, Cocoa rode behind the king, but Fudge rode at his side, crying, "Hurry, father, turn left, turn right, straight ahead." "Stop," said the king. The royal army stopped. They looked at the vast brown army that sat like a stopper in a bottle at the head of the mountain pass. The army went neither forward nor backward, neither up nor down, and overhead buzzed 100,000 flies. "What a strange army," mused the king. He rode closer to see what he was dealing with. When he turned back to tell his daughter, she was gone. His sons were gone, and his army was gone as well. Then the king turned to look again at the brown soldiers and saw that their chocolate hats were melting onto their chocolate heads, and their chocolate heads were melting into their chocolate uniforms, and their chocolate uniforms were running into their chocolate boots. Under the noonday sun, the entire army melted into a chocolate river that rushed toward king and horse, sweeping them away into the moat alongside one of the bloated moat dragons. It took 2 winches to drag the king out and a dozen scrubbers to clean him up. And when they were done, the king called a conference with his sons and daughter and the wise men and women of the kingdom. "It's one thing to love chocolate," the king said. "It's another to almost drown in it. I've had enough to last the rest of my life." "Hurrah!" cried everyone. Then the king turned to his children. "To remind us always of this change, I will give you 4 new names." The 3 boys all winked at Fudge, because the chocolate army had been her idea after all. They knelt before their father, and he held up his hands and proclaimed, "From now, my sons, your names will be Carrot, Tomato, and Cabbage. And you, my lovely daughter, will be Cauliflower." "Cauliflower?" Fudge began. But as Cauliflower was the nudge, is not a nickname that comes easily to the tongue, she said no more. And believe it or not, that is how the kingdom became known as Salad, and how it was ruled after the naughty old king died, by good Queen Collie, the flower of the land. This story is an original folktale by Jane Yolen, first published in Cricket magazine in 1995. There are 3 kinds of folktales: old stories transmitted mouth to ear over and over again, written down tales taken from the folk tradition that, once written by a strong writer, Perrault, the Brothers Grimm, Disney, and the like, become the versions of a tale, and art tales invented by a particular author that look and sound like folk tales but are not. Notable writers of original folk tales are people like Hans Christian Andersen, The Little Mermaid, The Ugly Duckling, The Nightingale, The Princess and the Pea; Oscar Wilde, The Selfish Giant, The Happy Prince; Frank Stockton, The Lady and the Tiger; Madame la Prince de Beaumont, Beauty and the Beast; and Lawrence Houseman, The Rat-Catcher's Daughter. Many of their fairy stories were never meant for young readers. Sweet chocolate mousse, the last chocolate you and your army will ever need, serves a family. Equipment: measuring cup, 2 bowls, small saucepan, mixing spoon or whisk, electric mixer, rubber spatula, decorative glasses, pastry bag and flour tip, optional. Ingredients: 1 cup semi-sweet chocolate chips, 3 cups heavy cream. Directions: put chocolate chips in the first bowl. Bring 1 cup of the cream to a boil, being very vigilant because cream will burn easily. Pour cream over the chocolate chips and stir with a spoon or whisk until there are no lumps. Cover and refrigerate for 30 minutes to an hour. When the chocolate mixture is cool, whip the remaining 2 cups of cream in the second bowl with the electric mixer until it stands up on its own. This can also be done with a whisk. Beat the chocolate into the whipped cream, making sure to scrape down the sides of the bowl with the rubber spatula. Using the pastry bag with a flour tip, pipe the chocolate mousse into decorative glasses or use a spoon to scoop it in. Serve with whipped cream. Whipped cream: whip together 1 cup heavy or whipping cream, 1 tablespoon sugar, and ½ teaspoon vanilla until the mixture is stiff. Variations: for more chocolatey mousse, use 2 cups of chocolate chips. Chill only for 30 minutes, or if longer, you may need to melt the chocolate mixture a little in the microwave before pouring it into the cream the second time. Try topping your mousse with berries. Facts about chocolate. 1. Chocolate begins with the cocoa bean, whose history starts back some 4,000 years ago in the Amazon region. 2. The bean's scientific name, Theobroma cocoa, or cacao, means food of the gods. The Mayans, who used cacao beans in the 6th century, called the cocoa tree Cacahocochotl, sorry for the pronunciation, from which the word cocoa comes. 3. Montezuma, emperor of the Aztecs, reportedly drank 50 goblets a day of a thick chocolate drink. The Aztecs did not have sugar to sweeten their chocolate drinks, but they used spices and even hot chili peppers. 4. Explorer Hernando Cortez brought back cacao beans to Spain, where they were used to make drinks that only the nobility were allowed to enjoy. 5. Today, the oldest cocoa plantations are in Mexico, Venezuela, Ecuador, and Brazil. 6. Chocolate has high levels of certain chemicals that help the brain stay awake and alert.